And welcome back. All right, let's take a look at our question of the day. And this morning, this is what we're asking you to engage us on. So we all know there's talk about easing of lockdown regulations. So what advice would you give to the Basic Education Minister, Angie Motshekga, as she prepares to table the department's plans for the remainder of the 2020 school year later today? What are your thoughts? What advice would you give the minister? At Morning Live SABC, that's our Twitter handle. And later on, if we can, we'll squeeze in some calls. 011-714-5861 is the number to dial.
Looking forward to seeing that one, because I know last week it was meant to come from the minister, and that was, of course, delayed, and the date given was Monday, but we hope that all will go ahead today. So that, again, is on the diary here and at the SABC. So this is what we're looking forward to today. Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga expected to give a briefing on the department's plans for the reopening of schools, and as you know, that is the question we're asking you this morning.
As of last night, the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in South Africa stands at 15,515. The number of deaths is now at 264. A total of 7,006 people have since recovered, which brings the total number of active cases to 8,245.
And those are the numbers that you need to keep with you if you need any information or you'd like to phone that 24-hour hotline 0800 029 999, the WhatsApp number 0600 123 456. It's the the government COVID-19 support service.
And then just taking a look at those overall statistics, once again, this is the provincial breakdown included, starting with the Western Cape. The number of positive cases for COVID-19 now at 9,294. Gauteng is at 2,329. KwaZulu-Natal, 1,543. And the Eastern Cape now at 1,936. Free State has 158 cases. Limpopo, 77. Mpumalanga, 71. The Northwest Province 70, and the Northern Cape stands at 37.
Yeah, I still think it's so important that we need to break down per province the amount of tests that have been done, because I think that might give this picture a lot more clarity to South Africans in terms of how many were tested and how many came through positive. So that is important. So we'll hopefully get those. We don't get those on a daily basis, unfortunately, so we can't see that. But in general, the tests conducted nationwide of 460,873, and the positive cases, as we've been saying, are now sitting at 15,515. The recoveries of that number, 7,006, which makes active cases 8,245, and the deaths in South Africa, unfortunately, sitting at 264. Globally, the number's gone up by 86,000 since yesterday. It's at 4.71 million people that have got coronavirus. 1.7 of those have recovered, and the deaths are now up almost 5,000 since yesterday. It's 315,000 deaths globally.
Right, let's move on to those trending topics now. First up, #FreeState. And this was a story, of course, covered in the Sunday newspapers. And the Public Protector's Office coming out with a report speaking to some alleged corruption involving an asbestos project. Now, this was about replacing asbestos roofs. If you would remember, a lot of the houses that were built during the apartheid era in townships were built with asbestos roofs. Now, we know what has since happened in terms of the scientific developments, where it was proven that asbestos is in fact bad for your health. But then the Free State Department of Housing, they set out to have a lot of those roofs replaced, but it would seem as though the money went everywhere other than actually replacing the roofs. And we're talking about at least 230 million rand, of which it would seem only 21 million rand or something like that actually went towards actual work in this regard, or so it goes. So these are the allegations. This is what the Public Protector has found. And of course, we know, I think it was Peter Louis Myburgh, if I'm not mistaken, also written quite extensively about this. So we'll wait and see what happens here, whether people are actually brought to book for what seems, just gross negligence and corruption that literally stares you in the face as you look at this particular project, Leanne.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. I know you said them, you were quite accurate. 230 million rand was paid to the main contractor, who then paid 44 million to the subcontractor, who then paid 21 million to the subcontractor who actually performed the work.
Yeah.
So 200 million clean profit and massive
for doing
wastage.
Nothing.
Yeah, in a
for
new
doing
report.
Absolutely nothing.
Insane.
And I think that is not just, something that speaks to this particular project, but that is something that is quite, extensive in all sorts of tenders where people do this. The tender goes to someone who does absolutely nothing, but just skims off the top and then subcontracts it to someone who subcontracts further. And eventually, when it comes to actually doing the work, there's almost nothing left to do the work.
And you know what? It's not just in that industry. It seems to be across the board. This is what's happening, and it's unacceptable. Anyway, quickly moving on. COVID-19 South Africa. That always is a trend, as well as the lockdown number, the day that we're on, 53. And, there's just been, as we mentioned in the news, so many different meetings taking place, so many different consultations as to where we're going. And then, of course, you talk to Sunday Papers, Sakina, a lot of talk in the Sunday Papers about that scientific board that are together, that are now saying, hang on a second, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing made with regard to decisions by politicians is not what we're advising them. So, and we're being told that whatever decision is taken is purely based on scientific investigations. But they're saying, no, not really. We haven't really said a lot of the stuff to them that's been happening. So we don't know what's going on. But what we do know is that, unfortunately, coronavirus is spreading. A lot of South Africans, from what I can see, just looking around, are getting hurtful. We can put that as a word, and are just going out and doing their usual business. I mean, shopping centres are packed. The roads seem a lot fuller. People are walking about. People are trying to, get back to normal life. But that's just, not what we're meant to be doing. I don't know, Sakina, if you've been seeing that as well where you're living.
I have been seeing that, Leanne, and it is a lot busier no matter where you go. It would seem as though people are kind of getting a sense of, let's just get on with it. But with regard to the actual numbers, and I think we can bring Western Cape into it now, we're talking about the numbers and the testing and just how the Western Cape has outpaced every other province in terms of the number of positive cases. They, of course, saying the reason is because they are doing a lot more testing than everybody else. Now, here's my dilemma. If the Western Cape says that, is there anything to disprove what they are saying? And this is where the problem comes in for me. If you look at last week, I think it was last week when we did see some numbers released by the National Health Laboratories. And if you looked at those numbers, they actually indicated that more tests were done in Gauteng.
Yeah, I actually have that in front of me, Sakina, so it would be nice to actually, I'll try and get it to graphics and we can send and put this up, because the figures that were given, and I'll just, go through the percentages. So Gauteng, as you rightly put, have done most of the tests, 33% of the tests, in fact, so 127,000. This was released on the 13th of May, so these are the numbers we're giving for the 13th of May. Then the next highest was the Western Cape. They've done a total of 82,665, so that's 21% of the tests. And then the numbers go down and down and down. The next would be KwaZulu-Natal at 67,000. The Eastern Cape are 10% of the tests at 38,000. And then the numbers dwindle quite substantially. I mean, the Northern Cape have only done 3,683 tests. That's the number that they have done. In Limpopo, 8,239. And Mpumalanga, 11,414. The Free State, 19,265 tests. So, these are the pictures that we're looking at, but I just wish that every day we would get a scenario of what it looks like in provincial testing. I think it would be much clearer for South Africans.
But I think important to state there that we're talking there about stats from a week ago. But as I say, disputing those Western Cape numbers, it has to be done empirically as well. So we need to know exactly how many tests are being done privately as well. Or, you know, someone needs to come and explain to us exactly what the rigors are and who is correct in terms of stating the case here for why the Western Cape is outpacing everybody else. And we'll leave that to the scientists, and we'll leave the trending topics there.
All right, that's where we're going to take a break, and when we return, I'll just quickly update you on the news headlines, and then we'll get some sports news.